My name is Ashley. I lost my father when I was very young, and from that moment, my mother, Linda, carried the entire burden of raising me. Despite pressure from relatives to remarry, she refused. She said no man could take my father's place, and she chose to devote her life to me instead. For a while, we lived in my uncle's home, but over time, it became clear that we weren't truly welcome. My mother, with quiet dignity, brought me back to our own small house, old, modest, but filled with respect and memories of my father. I grew up in that home, protected and loved. I was always a cheerful, outgoing girl. Not the best in academics, but popular in school, always active in functions and social activities. When I reached college, I bloomed even more. I had friends, I had fun, and for a while I lived without any worries. But as I turned 17, my mother started getting anxious. She would look at me with worry in her eyes, reminding me again and again that I needed to get married soon. She feared what would happen to me after her death. I brushed her concerns off. I wasn't ready. I wanted to enjoy life more, but she couldn't relax. For a single mother, a daughter's future is her biggest concern. That's when Aunt Nancy entered the picture. She was a distant relative, known and respected. She told my mother about her sister's son, Ryan, an educated young man studying at a university in another city. He was living in a hostel, focused on his studies. Nancy praised him and said he came from a good family, would treat a girl with respect. My mother was hesitant but hopeful. A few days later, Ryan's mother came to see me. She seemed pleased and later told Nancy she approved of me. Everything seemed to be going well until Ryan sent word that he wanted to see a photo of the girl before finalizing anything. That demand broke my mother's heart. She had raised me with pride, and modesty, and the idea of sending my photo to a boy was humiliating to her. But Nancy explained gently that times had changed. Educated boys these days wanted to see who they were going to marry. After some hesitation, and under the hope that this would secure my future, my mother agreed, but on one strict condition, that the photo would be returned sealed and unopened if Ryan declined. She picked one of my photos from our album and gave it to Nancy. But I wasn't ready to take a chance. I had seen how boys judged girls by appearance. I wasn't ugly, but I also wasn't stunning. My college friend Sophie, on the other hand, was exceptionally beautiful. Fair, tall, graceful, people often mistook her for a model. Once at a college event, we took pictures together. I remembered one where she looked like an angel. Quietly, without telling anyone, I gave that picture to Nancy instead of my own. Days later, the photo was returned sealed. Ryan had agreed to the proposal. My mother beamed with joy, thinking it was my photo that won his heart. I felt guilty but told myself that everything would be fine once we were married. Our wedding was simple but beautiful. On the wedding night, when Ryan lifted my veil, I saw the confusion in his eyes. He stared at me quietly. My heart sank. I couldn't keep the lie anymore. I began crying and confessed everything, that I had switched the photo with my friends out of fear of rejection. I expected anger, shouting, maybe even rejection. But Ryan just looked at me with disappointment. He said, "I made my decision based on that photo, Ashley, but you are my wife now. I won't dishonor your mother. But the girl in that photo, her image will stay with me." From that day on, we lived like a normal couple. We had a son, and Ryan was a good husband in every visible way. He never shouted, never blamed me again, never disrespected me. But every now and then, in passing remarks or quiet moments, he would mention the girl in the photo. I pretended not to notice, but each time it chipped away at me. 6 years passed. One afternoon, while I was preparing lunch, I heard guests enter the living room. It was Sophie, now married into a family that lived just a few blocks away. My heart pounded as I watched her walk in, looking even more radiant than before. Ryan came in, saw her, and froze. I heard him whisper, "She's here, the girl from the photo." I tried to laugh it off, but I saw it, the same spark in his eyes I had seen on our wedding night. Later, Sophie came back alone to see me. She smiled and asked, "Your husband, he recognized me, didn't he?" She had figured everything out. I broke down again. I told her the whole story and begged for forgiveness. She hugged me, smiled kindly, and said, "You're lucky. You have a husband, a child, a home. I'm still waiting for someone to truly love me." But after that day, Ryan changed. The memories he had suppressed returned with full force. He began comparing us, mentioning Sophie more openly. At first, I thought he was joking, but then one night, he said, "I loved that girl. I only agreed to the marriage because I thought she was you. Now she's here, living so close. I want to marry her." I felt like the ground beneath me collapsed. I pleaded, cried, reminded him of our son, our life, my loyalty. But Ryan had made up his mind. He said he still respected me, still cared for me, but he couldn't ignore what he truly felt. I couldn't bear it. I packed my things and left with our child. I returned to my mother's house, broken, ashamed, defeated. My mother was shattered. She said quietly, "When a bird leaves her nest, another bird takes it." Her heart ached for me, but she knew she couldn't change fate. Eventually, Ryan married Sophie. She became stepmother to my son. And I now live quietly with my aging mother. We live modestly. I often look back and wonder, if I had never used that photo, would this pain have ever happened? Maybe I would have remained unmarried. Maybe someone else would have accepted me for who I was. But in trying to protect my future, I destroyed it. I don't blame Sophie. I don't even blame Ryan anymore. I blame the lie. That one lie changed everything. I hope no other girl goes through what I did. May all daughters find a future built on honesty, not illusion. May no one ever fall in love with a photo. After Ryan married Sophie, my world turned gray. I wasn't angry anymore, just numb. I had spent years building a home, raising a child, believing that love would grow in time. But it had all slipped away. Not because I was unfaithful, not because I failed as a wife or mother, but because of a photo, a single moment of fear that led to a lifetime of regret. Ryan didn't stop supporting us. Legally, I was still his wife, his first wife. He sent money regularly for our son, Nathan, and sometimes even called to ask how he was doing. But there was no warmth left in those calls, no guilt either, just routine, as if we were an obligation now. My mother watched me fade. She tried to keep me strong. "Ashley," she would say, "this world is merciless to women who break, especially single mothers. You must not break." I forced myself to function. I started tutoring kids from the neighborhood, not for money, but to feel useful. I took care of my son. I smiled when he laughed, even though my chest ached. Then one day, Ryan's mother visited me. I hadn't seen her since the wedding. She looked tired, old, burdened. She said, "I warned him. I told him love built on images doesn't last, but he didn't listen." She sat for a while holding Nathan's hand and then said, "Ashley, you were always good to us. I hope life brings peace to you." She didn't ask me to return. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just gave me a mother's apology and left. A few months later, rumors started to spread. People said Ryan's new marriage wasn't what he had expected. That the Sophie he had fallen in love with through a photograph wasn't the same Sophie in real life. That she was distant, proud, more concerned with status and appearances. I didn't believe the rumors at first, but then one evening Ryan showed up at our doorstep, alone. He looked thinner, older. There were no formalities. He just sat down and said, "I thought marrying Sophie would complete the dream I had, but dreams don't survive in real life." I listened silently. He continued, "She's not a bad person, Ashley, but she's not what I imagined, and I was a fool to chase an illusion when I already had something real." I asked him why he was here. He looked at Nathan and said, "I miss my son, I miss peace, and I miss you." That one sentence twisted everything inside me. Anger, sorrow, shame, a flicker of hope, but I shut it down. I told him calmly, "You're married now. You made your choice, and I've made mine, to never live in the shadow of someone else's fantasy again." Ryan asked if he could visit Nathan regularly. I agreed, for our son's sake. He came often after that, but only for a few minutes at a time. He looked at Nathan with guilt in his eyes. Sometimes I caught him looking at me when he thought I wasn't watching. One day, Nathan asked me, "Mom, is Dad ever coming back to live with us?" I paused, smiled gently, and said, "No, sweetheart. Some stories don't have second chapters, and that's okay." Years passed. I never remarried. I raised Nathan with love and honesty. I taught him to value truth over appearances, respect over beauty, and loyalty over desire. He grew into a kind, strong, and grounded young man. Sophie eventually left Ryan. She said she felt like she was living in someone else's story, and maybe she was. Ryan ended up alone. As for me, I never found the fairy tale ending I had imagined, but I found peace. I found self-worth. I found strength I didn't know I had. And now when I look back, I don't cry over what was lost. I smile at what I became.